I'd say we're well over halfway through this build with both front and rear assemblies pretty much complete. We'll stick with the front end though with bag I, where we'll prepare the steering assembly. Okay, so we'll crack straight on with the steering assembly, bag I. Everything we need is included within this bag, including the Ackerman plate. What's interesting about this plate is that we have 3 positions for mounting the steering assembly, although if you switch the plate over we have another 2 positions in total for greater customizability. Anyway, let's get this together. Start with the first bell crank here and insert a bearing into the top and bottom of the arm, before inserting a bushing from the bottom, and then securing the metal plate to the bell crank with a 10mm button head screw. The bushing we inserted from the bottom is pre-threaded, so it's nice and easy, although remember to add a little thread lock here too. Also notice how the plate is facing forwards here, which you'll need to copy if keeping a stock setup. We now need to build the other side of the bell crank with what's called a Servo Saver. So start with these 2 parts here, place them together, and insert the longer piece from the top straight through. Next we can insert a spring from the bottom, and secure into place with a collared nut, complete with an O-ring inserted and in which you'll want to apply a little thread lock first. You'd find this much easier if you use a 17mm wheel wrench here in order to tighten the nut all the way down so that the spring is fully compressed. With full compression, loosen off the nut 2 full turns to achieve the optimal position. With Servo Saver built, again we can add a bearing to the top and bottom of the arm, along with a bushing into the bottom, after which we can secure to the metal plate with the second 10mm button head screw, complete with some thread lock applied. Now we need to build our steering links, again starting with some grease on the turnbuckle threads and screwing into the rod ends. These ones need a 71.5mm gap between rod ends. Again, use a caliper or the guide within the manual to be as accurate as possible. With both built, we can insert the pivot balls into each rod end. And going back to our steering assembly, we need to attach the steering links now, again making sure to orientate them so that the notch faces to the left side. Start with a 20mm cap head screw, drop on the first link, then drop on 4 of the included washers, before feeding through the middle hole of the Ackerman plate and tightening into a lock nut. Repeat the same on the opposite side, so link with the notch to the left, 4 washers, through the plate, and then the lock nut to hold it all together. Finally, insert a bearing into the top and bottom of each bell crank. And that brings us to the end of our steering assembly build, and bag I is now complete. Again, make sure everything is nice and free. Now bear in mind you will be left with this single piece after completing the bag. This can be used as a fixed piece instead of the Servo Saver, so if you wanted to run without the Servo Saver spring, you can replace the entire right side of the bell crank with this. Although honestly, I would not advise it. The spring will cushion your steering servo from sudden knocks and bumps, and it'll last much longer than without, so put this part away as you'll likely never need to use it. Anyway, the next step is to get this attached to our front end assembly, and we'll do that with the next kit bag.